Tenants are a nightmare. No, I'm just kidding. Hey everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker, and I want to talk to you guys about tenants. I run across a lot of investors, or wannabe investors, I would say, that want to be owning rental properties because they know that it's lucrative and it could be a very good thing for them. But they always get concerned about the tenants. They hear stories about, oh, the tenant's gonna damage the whole house, they're not gonna pay me. Landlord-tenant board always favors the tenant alone. They have all of these things to say about, why rental properties are bad, but on the flip side, they wanna make money on real estate. So what I'm here to tell you guys, that at the end of the day, it's a business. And any business has risk associated with it. So it's not a house or a home anymore to you. It may be to the person that lives there. But for me, it's a clear line and it becomes a business at that point. There are things that I have seen. And honestly, it's been, for me anyway, so far, I've been, I guess, maybe lucky. It's been less than a handful of times I've seen bad tenants. And it does happen out there. I know it does. But there's been so many more cases where there's been awesome tenants. And I'm going to share some stories about both sides with you guys, and I'm going to share with you guys what you can do to try to protect yourself as best as possible and getting a tenant for your property. Let's start off with some of the negative stuff that I have seen. One of the stories I could tell you negatively is that I had a rental unit that came up in downtown Toronto. It's one of acquaintance of my past client, and they were actually going to be relocating back to China or Hong Kong, and they were going to be staying there running a business. They had a really nice condo downtown. They had all this nice high-end furniture. It was a 2-bedroom place, and they didn't want to take their furniture out. They wanted to rent it out for a little bit more money and not have to take their furniture out because they just simply didn't want to move it. I suggested to them that a unit like this, people are probably going to have their own stuff. We're going to really narrow down the amount of people that we're going to be able to bring into this if you have this unit completely furnished. They didn't care, and they wanted to move forward with this. Fine. So we had it on the market for a bit, and what ended up happening was that surely enough, after a bit, we had 2 offers on the property. Not 1, but 2 rental applications. So the rental applications came in like this. One of the persons that brought forward the offer was 2 international students that were going to be going to school in the area. They were, international students. I couldn't verify anything about their credit. I really couldn't verify anything about their financials. I couldn't verify anything about these people. They gave me some school enrollment paper, and that's all they had to provide. I honestly forgot how much the rent was. I think it was $2,800, and these guys were willing to pay the $2,800. And then I had another application that came in, and this person was a lawyer, an immigration lawyer from Vaughan, and he was actually spending a lot of time downtown. And he would bring in clients from other parts of the world that they were going to be going through hearings and whatnot they have to do to enter the country. And he actually had his own office in Vaughan. I can actually check this in the land registry system and verify that this person owns his own office space. I can verify that he owns his own house. I can get business financial statements from this person. I can check him out. I know he's an immigration lawyer. We have some stuff tying him back over here, but he was willing to pay $200 less, so $2,600. My client decided to go with the international students. I was really trying to push him to go towards a lawyer because we could tie back to this person. Didn't want to do it, went with the international students, and I'm here to report to you guys, it didn't go over so well. These guys really didn't take care of the place. There was hair in the drain, over-flooded this. It was a bad situation. I don't want to say they heavily damaged the unit, but the paint got scuffed more than average. And, it just wasn't a pretty experience. And this client is coming back and saying, hey, you placed this tenant, but at the same time, you have options. And I was actually trying to steer you the other way. I don't want to keep downing you about the 3 negative or 4 negative stories I have, but that was kind of one of the extremes of the situations that I had. Now, I've had some very good tenants, like amazing tenants. I have a client that over the last, say 6 or 7 years been convinced to buy new construction real estate and then rent them out. And he's done really well, and I'm really happy for him. The first townhouse that he bought, I'm sure he was really scared about buying it. It's a lot of money he had to invest in this townhouse. Finally gets a townhouse and, lets me lease it out for him. And, we found this tenant, and I think this was back in 2000 and, I want to say 14, and we're in 2020 now. So this is 6 years later. This tenant is still there. This tenant is still there after 6 years. This house looks basically new. Like, this person is actually living in this house like it's their own house. They're taking care of this house. I think they even built a deck on their own dime after asking the landlord, of course. But, they're taking care of the house. They do walkthroughs of the house. It looks really nice. I don't think this person has any intention of going anywhere anytime soon. I kind of hope they do, because I know we can get a lot more rent for this property. But at the end of the day, this has been a great tenant for my client. Have they come across and said, hey, we're going to be 2 days late here or this or that? Absolutely. But they've always been forthcoming. They've told my client when they can cash a check or anything else like that. Hasn't been anything significant, and it's worked out really, really well for them. So guys, we're always going to get good and bad things. I would tell you that maybe out of all of the rentals I have done, maybe being realistic, 2% are probably, turned out to being a problem. 98% of them are really, really good. The next part of this video, I want to tell you guys how you should screen a tenant, like how I would want to screen a tenant, and not only screen a tenant, but position your property in order to attract the right type of clientele for the property that you have to rent out. I want to talk about the property, positioning the property in terms of marketing it first. Now, listing price on a rental property is very, very, very important to me. My preference is to put it up for rent for $50 to $100 less. I just find like I buy so much more insurance by doing something like that, because I'm going to attract a lot more people to the property, okay? And I'm going to be able to screen through these tenants, and I'm going to be willing to say no to some people because I know I have another offer coming in, until I can screen through and I can find a really good quality tenant. So I don't mind taking $50 or $100 less a month, because it can actually save me thousands of dollars down the line. That is one of the strategies I really, really like using. I'd rather go a little bit lower. I have a client right now that just bought his second home. He has another property and he's been able to keep that and turn that into a rental property. I'm really happy that he's been able to do that. And we've just done a pricing evaluation. My pricing evaluation for that area is $2,200 to $2,300 a month. He asked if we could do it for $2,500. I said, sure, we can put it up for $2,500, but at the end of the day, we might get the wrong type of clientele for this. They might pay you for the first 3-4 months, but it might not work out, or it might work out really well for you. But if we go up above this range where it's market kind of value, $2,200 to $2,300, we'll get a lot more applications, and I believe we'll have a stronger chance to actually secure a good tenant for this property. But we do with screening a tenant, and you guys can do the same thing on your own. Whether you want to place your ad on Kijiji, Craigslist, Marketplace, I don't know where you want to put it. If you don't want to work with a realtor, it's fine. A realtor could definitely help you out with that, but if you want to do it on your own, there's nothing wrong with that. Even the province of Ontario has made it easier, because before, where would you get a lease for a residential agreement? Real estate agents would write up all kinds of different clauses, this and that, a lot of stuff that wouldn't hold up by the landlord-tenant board if it was ever challenged. But right now, I believe for the last 2 years, the province of Ontario has come up with the residential tenancy agreement, and it's a very simple form. You just download it, it's free. You could download it, you just fill out the blanks, and it's like a 16-page form. You only got to fill out the first 10 pages. Everything else is like conditions beyond that. But it's very simple. You can fill it out on your own, so you can market it if you want on your own as well. But what you want to do is that you want to actually get some information from this tenant that's going to apply. First thing you want to do is get a rental application, okay? If you want a copy of a rental application, you can always ask me, I can send one to you guys. But you want this tenant to fill out the rental application completely. And then this rental application is going to have where they live right now, where they've lived previously, if it's less than 3 years ago, where they're living right now. They're going to have where they're employed right now and where they've been employed previously, if it was 3 years ago or more. And then it's also going to have who the other person is. Maybe it's a girlfriend, fiance, spouse. I'm not sure. If there's somebody else, or maybe two friends are renting a place, then I'll have the other person's information as well. It will have this information. Also, it'll have room for what their expenses are right now, what obligations they have, and who their references are. So we want to get this rental application filled out, okay? The next thing what we want is, I prefer to get an Equifax credit report with the credit score. Now, there are people out there, including real estate agents, which I hate to say, but I really find sloppy. They send you screenshots of Credit Karma. For me, unacceptable. I'm not going to deal with that. I want to see a proper credit report from Equifax with the credit report. The reason I find this very important is this. You can send me a screenshot and show me your credit score, but it doesn't tell me the full story. A credit report will actually tell you a full story. How many open lines of credit does this person have? So how much available credit do they have? How much of this credit are they actually using, okay? If they're using even 70% of this, it kind of makes me feel a little bit skeptical about them, because I feel like they're over leveraged at this point. But everyone has their own reasons, so you got to look at this stuff. So I want to see have they been late on payments before? How many times have they been late? Have they had any kind of bankruptcies or any judgments against them? Do they have any liens registered against them? Do they have a vehicle that's registered against them? So all of these things we can find in a credit report, and we can find history of a lot of these accounts. So I like to see this full credit report, and I feel like it actually paints a picture of this person and how they behave financially. So it gives me a good indication of how this person is, okay? So not just the credit score. I've seen people with very low credit scores, but when you look through the credit report, they're actually pretty good and they've had a bad situation that has occurred. Maybe they had a divorce and their credit went completely down because of this situation, but they're great people. There's different situations, but you want to look at the credit report and be able to analyze it. The other thing I want to get is I want to get an employment letter. I want a current employment letter, just like a credit report. Actually, I should mention I want to see something that was pulled from the last 30 days. And same thing with an employment letter. I want to get an employment letter and I want to make sure that it was within the last 30 days. Also, in addition to the employment letter, I want to get 2 pay stubs from this person, 2 recent pay stubs I want. And then also what I do with the pay stubs is that I actually calculate what their last amount was and what their current amount was, and I subtract and get the difference, and I make sure that the numbers actually make sense within these pay stubs as well. I've heard of people modifying pay stubs, so you want to try to see if you can catch any errors in any of these pay stubs. Once you have gathered all of this information, guys, what you want to do is you want to verify this information. So like I said, you're going to go through the credit report, the rental application, you want to call the previous landlord, you want to call, the references that they've put inside of there. Most of the references that are going to put inside of there is not going to say anything bad about them, but you still want to call, try to ask questions in a creative way. How do you know this person? How long have you known them? What does this person do for a living? Like, try to ask some detailed questions that these people should know. Just ask in a creative way. I had somebody that filled out an application and I said, hey, who else would be living with this person? I knew who it would be, but they said yes, they have a daughter and they have full custody of them and they're going to be living in the property. Some random person that they just would have told wouldn't have known this. So you can ask questions in a creative way to see if you have a sense of comfort. If you just come out and ask, hey, how's this person? They're going to say, oh, this person's fabulous. You're not going to have any problems. So try to ask questions in a different way. So after you gather all this information, you ask all of your questions. I think that's going to should be enough for you to get a good indication of if this person is going to be good or bad for you, and you can move forward. Now, sometimes we find people that are just coming into the country, they really don't have too much credit information or anything else like that. There is a way that we can work around this if you guys feel comfortable enough for it. A lot of times what people are willing to do is they're willing to prepay rent, okay? So sometimes they would be like, hey, listen, I can pay the first 6 months of rent up front. I say that's great, but I don't want 6 months of rent up front. What I want is the first month of rent up front and I want the last 5. Okay, guys, the reason I want to do that is because then they're not paying you rent for 6 months if you go with the original offer. So, 7th month, you can have a problem. I want to realize if I'm going to have a problem right away, okay? So they pay me my first month and the last 5. The second month they're paying, third month they're paying, fourth month they're paying. Great, I'm happy about that. And then say if there's a problem, well, guess what? I have 5 months on the back that I can start to use towards that rent while I can deal with this person. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that, but it adds a little bit more security to this. There are a couple of other tips and tricks I can share with you guys. If you guys are considering a rental property, if you have a problem with the tenant, reach out to me. I'm not telling you I can solve your problems, but there might be some tips and tricks I can share with you guys as well that might help you guys further along in your process there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Until then, guys, I need you guys to remember one thing: get Kabani, get sold.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.